there is the Forum, and I just finished Late Night with the Devil, my first film at MIFF this year, a brand new Australian horror film shot in Melbourne, I believe. We got to see a Q&A with the directors as well. It's a really interesting 70s callback with a brilliant performance by David Dastmalchian as a 70s talk show host who invites evil onto his show, and the night just gets more and more hellish and crazy as it goes on. I'm already in love with this movie, and it might end up being my favorite at MIFF this year and one of my favorites of the year in general. Like, if you ever get the chance to check it out, highly recommend it. Just saw Blackberry, the new film by Matt Johnson, over at the Capitol Theatre. It was a really good film. It's a funny version of like the tech billionaire biopic like The Social Network, but it plays on the dramatic irony that most biopics don't do. It's like, you know how it ends. The movie knows that you know how it ends. So it plays with that for comedic and dramatic effect. Brilliant performances, especially from Glenn Howerton, who genuinely deserves all the awards for his performance in this film, especially for all the yelling that he does. The delivery of like certain lines are just fucking fantastic, and the whole movie is fantastic. It's really funny, really smart too, so highly recommend. I will have a full review out for RMIT, and that will be in the description below. Go check that out, go check out the movie. Just saw Yasujiro Ozu's 1950 film The Munakata Sisters over here at Acme. It was a really beautiful portrayal of relationships and marriage and the kind of regrets you hold through not pursuing things that you wanted to do when you were younger, with a really, really nice performance from Hideko Takamine. It's absolutely probably the most charismatic performance I've ever seen in an Ozu film. If you ever get the chance to watch this, highly recommend. So I just arrived at the Astor Theatre, and I'm about to see an entire 5-hour mini-series directed by Lars von Trier. The Kingdom Exodus. It's the third series, made 25 years after the first two, which I just spent the last week or so watching. Really good. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm going to be sitting in the theatre for about 5, if not more hours. So this will be fun. It's currently 8:08 p.m. and the screening starts at 8:45, and I'll report back when I'm done. So it's a 2:15 in the morning. I've just finished watching the 5-hour marathon of The Kingdom Exodus, Lars von Trier's new mini-series. Right out the cinema, just sitting in the car right now. These are my first thoughts just coming through my head. I can't say it's exactly the most satisfying ending. I won't go too far into specifics. I'll be vague, because I do think it was really good. As a conclusion to the series, it takes kind of the Twin Peaks The Return approach, in that it doesn't really care about being a conclusion so much as just kind of finishing everything. It doesn't tie any loose ends at all. It brings back a few cast members, but it's definitely more concerned with some of the newer cast members, including giving us a brand new protagonist. Of course, this is 25 years later, so they're not going to all have returned, especially some of the more senior cast members. But it's like a really interesting meta approach as well. And there are references to the show in the show. Characters have seen the show but they're still living within the world of the show. It's a really interesting meta approach. I'm not going to say it benefited from being watched in a cinema, but it definitely enhanced the experience, and it was really interesting seeing all this crazy shit unfold, because it just gets wackier and wackier as it goes on. They kind of embraced the comedy even more so in this one, but they also embraced like the weird, disturbing shit as well. Comparisons to Twin Peaks The Return are like completely valid. So I think definitely worth watching all 3 series. Absolutely, I would call myself a fan of Riet, or however it's pronounced, The Kingdom. Also, I gotta say, this is probably the most empty any of my screenings at MIFF have been so far. But granted, it's a 5-hour mini series that ends at 2 in the morning, so I can't really blame anyone for not wanting to come. This is MIFF day 4 and bleeding into day 5 because I've got to get home now because I've got 3 movies that I'm seeing tomorrow, but technically later today. Anyway, that's this day of MIFF. Time for the next one. So we just got out of the Master Gardener, which is playing at the Comedy Theatre, but what weird thing happened that stopped us from finishing the movie?
Green.
Green, yeah, the screen went all green. I took a picture of it before. We got about maybe 90 minutes into a 2-hour movie, but what we saw of the movie I thought was pretty good. What about you?
Pretty good, yeah, I was really impressed with it. It's probably the weakest of the Paul Schrader recent trilogy, the Gosling Man trilogy, but it was impressive. I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it because and I'm not like a huge fan of Paul Schrader like you are.
Yeah, true.
But I was really invested in the main character, and I thought Sigourney Weaver was fantastic.
Oh, she was great, yeah.
It's like the first time I've seen her acting in like years.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely check out The Master Gardener. Just saw Joanna Hogg's new film, The Eternal Daughter, starring Tilda Swinton and Tilda Swinton. Really interesting kind of extension of the style that she established in the 2 Souvenir films, but in a bit more of like a eerie horror vibe, very kind of Hammer-esque, beautiful gothic architecture used throughout the film. It's shot in this lovely hotel. Highly recommend. So I just finished Hirokazu Kore-eda's new film Monster. It's an absolutely beautiful film. It uses a very similar structure to that of Kurosawa's Rashomon, where it tells the story in 3 separate parts and lets you piece together who's right and who's wrong, because it really is all about lies, and the little lies, but also the big lies that we tell that kind of impact everyone else in our lives. It's a really touching story, and I highly recommend it. I cannot stress how beautiful this film is. This is eventful, isn't it? So just finished the Auteurs Abridged short film session here at the Forum. It was 5 really interesting and unique short films. The first short film, which was Jean-Luc Godard's posthumous short film with Saint Laurent, which was basically a collage of things relating to an unmade film that will never get made called Phony Wars. Next up was a short film by Tsai Ming Liang, which is basically a collection of photos of this dilapidated building filled with really nice but old but well-kept chairs, and then paintings of said chairs, and then paintings of him and his friends. It was really unique, kind of lonely, but really pretty as well. Third up, there was a short film called The Daughters of Fire, which was basically like kind of a musical number done in triptych by 3 women in 3 different areas. Really, really pretty looking short film. And the music was quite nice. I'm not entirely sure what the meaning of it all was, but it was really well put together, and the production design was quite fantastic. And then there came a short film called Maid, which was a lot more narrative driven. It was about a maid on her first day learning the ropes, but then there was a bit of a twist further on that I won't spoil, but I can say that it definitely made the thing a little more humorous, but also quite thought-provoking. And then the 5th and final short film, which was the one that was probably the most notable and the one that most people came here to see, was a new film by Pedro Almodovar, or Almodovar, I'm not entirely sure how it's pronounced, starring Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal as gay cowboys. It's got his typical highly dramatized soap opera style, but with the beautiful colors and costumes, but in a Western setting, and it was definitely the most intriguing one, and I honestly would have watched a full movie of that story because it was quite captivating. But yeah, I can definitely recommend the last two there the most. The night, it basically started off with the most avant-garde and experimental short film, and then as the night went on, they became much more easy to follow and narrative driven. So I had fun. It was also really nice to catch up with an old friend that I haven't seen in a while, so that was cool. Anyway, that's my last night at MIFF.